Good afternoon, everyone. We have all participants muted and joining us without video today. If you have questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, as we'll have a question and answer period near the end of the presentation. We will be recording this event, and the link to the recording will be sent via email to everyone who signed up. I will now hand you off to Bonnie. Enjoy your virtual tour.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And for some of you, it might be morning or evening. Welcome to everyone. So who is ready to go on safari to Uganda today? It's an absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to speak to you today. Anyone who knows me knows how passionate I am about Africa. I have a deep love for nature and animals in general, and I'm excited to be here today to share with you a destination that is not only remarkable, but is also very near and dear to my heart. In fact, it was the last tour I had the opportunity to lead before the pandemic hit and halted travel globally. I'm Bonnie Hinschberger, co-founder of Broad Escapes Tours for Women. Some of you have had the pleasure of traveling with on our Broad Escapes tours, and some of you on this call have actually traveled with me on safari to Uganda. Others have joined us as clients and friends of Ellison Travel Tours and their group of brands. A warm welcome to all of you. To give you a brief history of who we are, Ellison Travel Tours is a 100% Canadian owned and operated full service travel agency established in 1980 by founder Doug Ellison. Doug and his family have carried on the family tradition for 40 plus years now. I'm co-founder of Broad Escapes Tours for Women, a brand under Ellison Travel Tours, and my brand offers meticulously designed, customized tours for women to travel in a safe, fun, and welcoming environment. Together, we've spent years building relationships with trusted suppliers worldwide, and which enable us to create and deliver authentic, exceptional travel experiences to our travelers. We take pride in curating customized itineraries for individuals and groups of any size. We have 3 offices, with our head office being in Exeter, Ontario, and branch offices in North Vancouver, BC, and London, Ontario. So enough about us. Let's get you halfway around the world to Uganda. I'll give you just a brief history of my travels to Uganda. I've had the pleasure of traveling there twice. And both times I was fortunate to go on the mountain gorilla trekking experience. And it is incredible. It's one of my top experiences in all of my travels. So you're going to get a glimpse of that. But Uganda also has lots of other things unique. They have chimpanzees, they have tree climbing lions, which I hadn't seen in any of the other countries I visited in Africa. The landscape is beautiful, and what I really like were the river safaris, where you can view the animals from the pleasure of your boat in a river. It's very peaceful. But you'll also find the people are so genuine. We always, with our women's tours, try to make our trips purposeful and impactful and giving back to the communities, and you're going to get a glimpse of what opportunities are available in Uganda as well, which we've taken part of. So we have 2 presenters today. Both are members of a family-run business. We have Alfred Kamya and Angelica Evans. So just give you a little briefing on them. Alfie will be our first presenter, and he grew up in Uganda in a family where tourism and conservation were an important part of life. His mother is tourism minister for the Toro Kingdom in Uganda, and co-founder of Let's Go Travel. He attended school in Kenya, focusing on wildlife and conservation, and was inspired by the work done by wildlife conservationists Joy Adamson and David Sheldrick, and in particular, the iconic images of the first ivory burning in Kenya. During his studies, it was not uncommon to have snakes, monkeys, and even hippos appear on the school ground. He returned to Uganda to join the family business, bringing with him his expertise in wildlife and conservation to enhance the safari experience for their travelers. And Angelica was born and raised in Australia, had the opportunity to visit Uganda in 1994 and experience the gorilla trekking. That trip changed her life. She immediately fell in love with the country, as did her mother, and her mother moved to Uganda and in 1996 co-founded, together with Alfie's mother, this successful safari company. Since then, Angelica has been working in the tour and travel industry in Africa, promoting both inbound and outbound travel. Today, she lives in Uganda and is a sales and marketing specialist at Let's Go Travel. Her expertise with lodges, national parks, and community projects ensure that every safari designed will be an extraordinary experience for all travelers. So I'm going to pass you over to Alfie and Angelica, and they will do the presentation of Uganda. But before I do, we're going to just transport you here to a video, and I'll share my screen again. Just give me a second. There we go.
Uganda.
This is my Uganda.
This is my Uganda.
This is my Uganda.
This is my Uganda.
This is our Uganda.
This is my Uganda.
Okay, Alfie, you can take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Bonnie, for that introduction and also for the amazing video. I hope it took everyone's appetite to visit Uganda. My name is Alfred Kamya and I'm one of the directors of Let's Go Travel. I'm going to present two presentations today. One will focus on an overview about Uganda so you can get a feel and a flavor for the destination. And then the second presentation will specifically talk about the gorilla trekking experience. So without further ado, let me share my screen and begin my first presentation. Okay, I hope you can all see that. So here we go. Welcome to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Uganda was dubbed the Pearl of Africa by Winston Churchill in his book, My African Journey. He wrote the book in 1908, and the moniker, the Pearl of Africa, has remained as a way to describe Uganda ever since. Here's a little bit about Let's Go Travel. Let's Go Travel began in 1996 and was co-founded by Joan and Marenka. Because we were founded in 1996, we believe that we have expert knowledge that allows us to clearly advise our clients on the best possible safaris that they can have based on their requirements. Our safaris are based around 3 salient points. One is our driver guides. Our driver guides are among the top guides in Uganda, and we believe that because of that, you will get yourself an exceptional experience by them being able to impart knowledge that they have of the destination. We're sustainably conscious. So that means that we work by supporting social enterprises and lodges that have eco-friendly practices. And we believe that by doing that, we offer a more sustainable and responsible way of travel. The third salient point is our unrivaled customer service. We take care of all our clients from the moment you inquire to the moment we take you back home. Uganda itself is a landlocked country in East Africa. There's a map here on the left-hand side. It has an incredibly diverse landscape. Ruwenzori snow-capped mountains to the west, which house the third highest peak in Africa, Margarita Peak, which is on Mount Stanley. The third largest lake in the world, Lake Victoria. The longest river in the world, the River Nile, and also one of the oldest forests in the world, in windy, impenetrable forest. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. Just from a size perspective, Uganda is around 2,400 square meters, which makes it about the same size as Great Britain. It has a population of 44 million, with official languages being Swahili and English, capital city called Kampala, and the second city called Entebbe, which is where the international airport is. Uganda's ethnicity is also diverse. Historical people migration has meant that Uganda is a mix of an ethnic Nilotic tribe, and these are the tribes who migrated south from Northern Africa, from Sudan, and came into Uganda, and now live in northern and eastern Uganda. The Bantu tribes migrated north from southern and central Africa and now live in southern and western Uganda. So, why visit Uganda? There are so many activities and experiences that you can have in Uganda. And for the interest of time, I'm going to focus on 6. Starting off with gorilla trekking. Gorilla trekking is the marquee product that Uganda has to offer. Uganda is home to over half the remaining mountain gorillas in the world. And in Uganda, you can do gorilla trekking in 2 particular national parks, Windy Impenetrable National Park and Magahinga National Park, both located in southwest Uganda. Chimpanzee trekking is also a big marquee product for Uganda. There are 4 places where you can do chimpanzee trekking: Chibali National Park, Udongo Forest, Kalinzu Forest, and Chambura Gorge. Overall in Uganda, there are about 5,000 chimpanzees, and an interesting fact is a large number of them actually reside outside of the national parks. Culture, religion, and tradition play a very big part in Ugandan society, and the re-establishment of the previously abolished kingdoms has also added to the longevity of this. Bird watching is a very big activity you can do in Uganda. Uganda is known as the bird watching capital of Africa. This is because 50% of all African bird species can be found in Uganda, and 10% of all the world's bird species can be found in Uganda. So if you're a birder, this is the place to go. Uganda is also famous for its wildlife, not just its primates. You can see the big five in Uganda, and Uganda has some big wildlife accolades. For example, Uganda has the highest number of Rothschild's giraffes in the world in Murchison Falls National Park, and the Gazinga Channel in Queen Elizabeth National Park has one of the highest densities of hippos in the world. If you are an adventure seeker, the River Nile provides a perfect playground for whitewater rafting, kayaking, canoeing, or simply just cruising down this iconic longest river in the world, with the source of the Nile being in Jinja in eastern Uganda. Moving on to national parks, there are 10 national parks and 8 wildlife reserves within Uganda. Today I'm going to talk about 9. The one I won't be talking about is Semiliki National Park. It's an excellent national park and great for bird watching. Let's start with Bwindi. Bwindi National Park is where the majority of the gorillas stay. There are 20 gorilla families that tourists can visit on a daily basis. Each family is only allowed 8 tourists. And once you locate the gorillas, you can only spend 1 hour with them. Mangahinga National Park, which is in southern Uganda, close to the Rwandese border, is also famous for gorilla trekking with 1 family. But it has the only place in Uganda where you can go golden monkey trekking. It also has the Virunga mountain range, which straddles Congo and Rwanda. So some great hiking to be done there. Chibali Forest National Park is the principal national park where chimpanzee trekking takes place. It is also known as the primate capital of the world because it has 13 primate species. The national park also makes for a great bird watching destination. Moving away from the forest national parks, we have 3 savanna national parks here, starting with Murchison Falls. Murchison Falls National Park is home to Murchison Falls, which is the most powerful waterfall in the world on account of the fact that the entire River Nile squeezes through a 7-meter gap and then falls 43 meters. A truly magnificent experience. Queen Elizabeth National Park is known for its leopards, lions, elephants, and even chimpanzees, as I alluded to earlier. The national park sees many visitors, and the added bonus of this national park is the fact that you can go on the Gazinga Channel, which is a channel of water that connects 2 lakes together. And this gives you the opportunity to see animals coming to the water to drink, laze about, sunbathe, and mud bath. Kidepo National Park, located in the northeast of Uganda, was voted the best national park in Africa back in 2016, and is a hidden gem. It's a quintessentially savanna park where you can find specific animals in Kidepo that you will not find anywhere else in Uganda. A cheetah being one of them, an ostrich, and as well as white-eared kob. I alluded to the Ruwenzori Mountains earlier on, a great place to go trekking. There are many trails, starting from a 1-day hike to a 9-day hike, which will get you right up to the top of Margarita Peak. It's also home to 70 mammals, loads of bird species, and some of the rarest vegetation in the world. This is one of the only places in the world you'll find giant lobelias, which is an ancient and rare plant found on the slopes of the Ruwenzori Mountain. Mount Elgon, a long time ago, used to be the tallest mountain in Africa until it exploded. It is now holds a record for the largest caldera. It is an incredible place to visit, untouched, unspoilt, and for those who like hiking, a good place to go and visit. Lake Imbrua National Park is the smallest national park in Uganda, but the closest to Kampala and Entebbe. Although it's the smallest, there are animals within the park that you cannot see anywhere else in Uganda, and I've listed them here. Eland, the biggest antelope in the world, impala, and it also has the largest herds of zebra. Conservation is at the forefront of wildlife management in Uganda, and this has been repeatedly recognized in 2019 and in 2020. In 2019, the founder of Conservation Through Public Health was nominated for a Tusk Award, and in 2020, the director of community conservation in Chibali Forest was also nominated for a Tusk Award. A Tusk Award is the equivalent to the Oscars when it comes to conservation. And so on that basis, I've picked out 4 organizations who have been doing a sterling job in conservation, and we'll just talk a little bit about them now. The first organization is Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary. The sanctuary was set up in Uganda and had 6 rhinos donated. 4 came from Isiolo in Kenya, 2 came from Disneyland. And today, on account of the breeding program, there are now 22 rhinos. Uganda did have black and white rhinos in the past. Unfortunately, they were hunted to extinction. The rhinos within the sanctuary are southern white rhinos. The Uganda Carnival Program, or the UCP, works with communities to come up with activities to increase local participation and wildlife conservation. This is principally done in Murchison Falls National Park and Queen Elizabeth National Park. The Uganda Wildlife Education Centre, also known as the Uganda Zoo, plays a critical role in taking care of animals that have been injured, orphaned, as well as animals that are rare and need rehabilitation. At the moment, it has 282 animals, including 10 big cats, a large number of bird species, herbs, and medicinal plants. The Ngamba Chimpanzee Island Sanctuary is an island in Lake Victoria that houses chimpanzees. These chimpanzees have been orphaned or have been injured, and this sanctuary provides a home for them so they can be rehabilitated, reared, and also researched to work out and find out a bit more about their behavior. As we alluded to before, responsible tourism and sustainable tourism are very important for Let's Go Travel and within Uganda. And I just wanted to point out 4 organizations who I'll talk a little bit more about later, who work within Windy and really do a great job insofar as helping the community in and around the national park to thrive and to be self-sufficient. Sorry, the organizations are Ride for Women, Change Your Life Windy, Windy Specialist Guides Group, and Conservation Through Public Health. That concludes this part of the presentation. I'm now just going to switch presentations and focus on gorilla trekking. Just bear with me, please. I think I can do this. Okay, so just to start off, some mountain gorilla facts. There are 2 species of gorillas, and within those 2 species, there are further 2 subspecies, so 4 subspecies. You have Western gorillas, which are made up of the Cross River gorilla and the Western lowland gorilla. You also have Eastern gorillas that are made up of the Eastern mountain gorilla and the Eastern lowland gorilla. In Uganda, the gorilla trekking experience, you will find Eastern mountain gorillas. These gorillas grow to between 4 to 6 feet tall and weigh anywhere up to 485 pounds, which is about 220 kilograms. As you can see here, they share a large proportion of their DNA with humans, and they live only within Eastern Central Africa in 2 isolated geographical areas, which is the Virunga Massif, a geographical area that spans Congo and Rwanda, as well as Burundi. Out of the 1,063, there are 459 that live in Bwindi. Bwindi has 4 sectors, 2 in the north, as you can see here, Buhoma and Ruhija, and 2 in the south, in Kringo and Rushaga. Each sector has a different number of habituated gorilla families, with each family having a different number of gorillas. So what you see on the screen now are the names of the gorilla families that live within each of the sectors in Bwindi. The term gorilla habituation is the process that is taken, and it takes about 2 to 3 years. And during this time, researchers and rangers visit the gorillas on a daily basis to slowly introduce them to the presence of humans. There's a list of 12 gorilla trekking rules here on the screen. Following these rules are very important. And that's because they're there for client safety, animal safety and protection, as well as ensuring that there is as minimum impact to the environment that you're trekking in. One thing to remember is that mountain gorillas are not the only animals that live in the park and within the forest that you're trekking. Each trekking group will have between 2 to 3 rangers, one at the front leading and one at the back, just to make sure that the group is always moving at the same pace. Each group will also have 2 to 3 trackers who would have gone ahead earlier in order to start looking for the gorillas. The first rule is always listen to the Uganda Wildlife Authority rangers at all times. As I mentioned before, each gorilla family is only allowed a maximum of 8 visitors per day, and you've got to be over 15 years old to do a gorilla trek. Once you've found the gorillas, you're only allowed to be with them for 1 hour, and you must maintain a 7-meter gap between yourself and the gorillas at all time. Please don't touch the gorillas. Flash photography is prohibited. Do not look directly into the gorilla's eyes, and keep your voices down when you're close to the gorillas. Those 3 rules revolve around not startling the gorillas. You're going into their territory. You've got to respect their territory and their space. Coughing and sneezing must be done into a tissue away from the gorillas. If you need the loo, you've got to ask a new ranger what you've got to do. Please, we talked about leaving a minimum impact. The first thing you can do is not to litter the park. Gorilla trekking, the human aspect. I talked about these, excuse me, these organizations at the end of my last slide, so I'm going to go into a little bit more depth now. Tourism conservation is not just about wildlife and scenery. It's about shared experiences and interactions with people who live in and around the area that you're visiting. This is not only very important, but it's also very rewarding. And here are 5 examples of organizations that we visit and that we promote, which will give you that rewarding experience. And the reason we do it is to ensure that the benefits of tourism are also felt by the communities that live close to the parks. So on the left-hand side here, you've got 2 organizations, Ride for a Woman and Change Your Life Bwindi. These are both women-led social enterprises. Ride for a Woman is based in Buhoma and Change a Life Bwindi is based in Ruhija, both in northern Bwindi. And these social enterprises empower women, teach them how to sew, to weave, to create handicrafts so that they can be sold directly to tourists. Ride for Women also has an accommodation establishment, which is very good. And Change Your Life Bwindi has opened up a Batwa shelter. And the Batwa were the tribe of people who used to live in the national park before it was, when I say the national park, I mean Bwindi, before it was gazetted as a national park. And unfortunately, they had to move out. Conservation through public health was set up by the lady you can see in the picture here, called Dr. Gladys Kalema Zikusoka. And the organization does a 2-pronged service by improving the health of gorillas and of the local population. They have a gorilla monitoring program, which monitors the health of gorillas through collecting fecal samples to ensure that all the gorillas are in good health. And the human element, they have what's called a village health conservation team. And these are trained volunteers that deliver specific and integrated public health on a community basis with services such as hygiene practices, infectious disease prevention and control, family planning, nutrition, and conservation education in the form of human-wildlife sensitization. The organization Conservation Through Public Health has also set up an NGO called Guerrilla Conservation Coffee. This is where they train families and individuals who live in and around the park to plant coffee beans so that they can be grown, harvested, processed, dried, and roasted, and then sold both in Uganda and worldwide. The unique setup of Guerrilla Conservation Coffee is that they will buy 100% of all the coffee that is grown by their cooperative that is set up in Windy. So there is a market, an immediate market for the people who are planting the coffee. And that means that they get financially rewarded for doing that. The last group here is Windy Specialist Guides Group. This guides group was set up to empower local guides to showcase their village in their own words. It was set up as a response to a series of complaints where some community experiences were beginning to be deemed as undignifying and voyeuristic. Excuse me. So in order to change that, a Darwin-funded initiative got hold of a group of guides who lived within the villages in and around Windy, trained them up and said, it's better if you tell your story about your village from your perspective. And it works very well. My final slide talks about how COVID-19 has affected guerrilla trekking. When the pandemic reached Uganda about a year ago, all national parks were shut, and that included the primate parks. A direct result of that was the Uganda Wildlife Authority, who run the national park, lost their ability to collect funds for conservation. And some of the park-edge communities and the enterprises that I've spoken about in this presentation also suffered due to lack of tourist footfall. What this did is it increased the awareness of guerrilla conservation efforts, which I think was one of the benefits, because it shone a light on the need to carry on conservation, even in the light of the lack of tourists. Some other good news is that 12 gorilla babies were born in Windy in 2020, which is an incredible number. If you compare it with 2019, where only 3 were born, and the mountain gorillas are one of the only endangered species in the world where numbers are increasing. From a practical perspective, all rangers, researchers, and tourists must wear masks when they go on a gorilla trek. And of course, hand sanitizer, temperature checks are done at the start of each trek. We would advise anyone going on a gorilla trek to take more than 1 mask. Just in case something happens to the first mask, you would need a backup. The final thing that COVID-19 has done is it's accelerated the discussion about the next step in gorilla tourism and gorilla conservation. What is this going to look like in the future? The model at the moment is based on tourism, assisting, and grant funding, assisting gorilla conservation and tourism. We hope that will continue, and we look to see how that will affect us in the future. That ends my presentation, and I'm going to now stop sharing my screen and pass you over to Angelica. I'm going to pass you over to Angelica now.
Unmute myself. Hi everyone, I'm Angelica, and I hope everyone is doing well. Thanks, Alfie, for that. That was super interesting. I'm just going to take you on a quick recap on what Alfie talked about, the national parks, and then also talk a little bit about impactful tourism. So let's start. Where am I? Okay. So Alfie already showed you the map of Uganda. He mentioned Entebbe is the international airport. Kampala is the capital city. We're looking at most of our safaris pretty much starting in the northern loop. So I'm going to quickly talk about Murchison, Kibale, Ruwenzori, Queen Elizabeth, Bwindi, Lake Mburu, head up to Mount Elgon, Kadepo Valley, and then back down to Jinja. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. It's a bit of a show and tell with some pictures, and you might recognize some people in the pictures as well. Okay, so Murchison Falls is the largest national park. It's fantastic for amazing game fishing experiences. You can catch large catfish, Nile perch, up to about 68 to 70 kilos in size. Morning game drives, early evening game drives are fantastic. Boat cruise to the bottom of Murchison Falls is a must. Along the riverbanks, you get to see elephants, giraffes, buffaloes, hippos, crocodiles. Home to over 76 mammals and 451 birds. The film, The African Queen, starring Humphrey Bogart, was filmed on Lake Albert and in the Nile Murchison Falls National Park. So I think everyone can recognize Bonnie here. Thank you, Bonnie, for your pictures. Bonnie's at the top of the falls. And as you can see, you can fish. There's giraffes, crested crane, the national bird of Uganda. Alfie talked about rhinos in the Zebra Sanctuary. It's only a couple of hours away from Murchison Falls. The most popular lodge there is Paris Safari Lodge, and it's a lovely upmarket lodge. Next, Kibale National Park. We touched on this. Kibale National Park is renowned for its primates, mainly the chimps. Guided walks, there's two, starting at 8 in the morning and 2 p.m. Run for an average of 3 hours. Contact time is 1 hour with the chimps. You actually must be over 15, not 16. They changed that. The other beauty about Kibale is that it's an important ecotourism destination. It has over 351 tree species and has been recorded in the park, some of them to rise over 55 meters, and over 200 years old. Once again, another birding place for birders. All the national parks in Uganda are fantastic for birding. The great blue turako is there. Bonnie experienced it with her group, chim trekking. She went on the morning trek and loved it. This is a lovely lodge known as Chininga Lodge. It's got about 12 rooms, and it's also an upmarket lodge. Ruwenzori Mountains, lovely area. I was actually there about a week ago. It's got fantastic trails for trekking for everybody. You can do a half-day trek. You can do a day trek. The most strenuous treks are 9 days to 12 days. The explorer Henry Stanley placed the Ruwenzoris on the map in 1888. He labelled the Ruwenzoris as a local name. He recorded it meaning rainmaker or cloud king. The oldest recorded person to reach Margarita Peak in 2010 was Miss Beryl Park, age 78. So I guess anybody can climb if they just have the stamina and the willpower. As I said, coffee tourism is quite big around there. Agritourism is quite big. It's home to Robusta coffee. And there's a lot of excursions and tours that you can do around there, ranging from half day to about 3 days. A beautiful lodge around there is the Equator Snow Lodge. It has about 6 rooms, and there's a river that runs through it, and it's close to the base of the Ruwenzori Mountains. Queen Elizabeth National Park, I just have to let everybody know this picture Bonnie took when she was in Ashasha, which is part of Queen Elizabeth National Park. She got super lucky. I wasn't in her car when she took it, so she got the money shot there. Queen Elizabeth National Park was known as Kasinga National Park, and 2 years later, they renamed it to Queen Elizabeth II. Once again, 600 bird species here. It's not only outstanding for wildlife attractions, but fascinating cultural history. There are many opportunities for visitors to meet local communities and enjoy storytelling, dance, music, and more. Kasinga Channel cruises are popular. There's 4 of them a day that go out for a couple of hours. The tree climbing lions are quite an attraction, and that's in Ashasha National Park. They usually go up there to escape the heat and to relax. Moya Safari Lodge is one of our favourite lodges there. And as you can see down here, it has a fantastic view on the Kasinga Channel. And if you wake up early enough in the morning, you can see the elephants and the buffaloes come down and drink along the Kasinga Channel. Windy Impenetrable Forest National Park. Alfred already touched on this. It's where the gorillas are. Mabari Gorilla Group was the first to become available for tourism in Uganda in April 1993. I was lucky enough to trek them in 1994 in April. And I also managed to trek them in November back in 2019. So they're still going strong. The Bahoma area is an impressive area. It has a lot of luxury lodges, rustic bandas, budget campsites, as well as restaurants, craft stalls, and guiding services. I have to apologise, everyone, for this line here. I don't know where it came from, but it's a Zoom call, so things can happen. Bonnie took her group to Bahoma, and there's a lovely shot here. If I can see it right, it's mother and baby, if it looks right. One of our favourite lodges there is Mahogany Springs. It's a 4-star lodge and it backs up to the park. They have about 12 huts that you can stay in, and it's really, really beautiful. Sometimes actually the gorillas come and visit there, if you're lucky. Lake Mburu, Alfie said, zebras, you'll find zebras there, the only place to find zebras. It's quite a small park. It's only about 3.5 hours to 4 hours from Kampala, so it's very popular. The nice thing about the park is you can do game drives, like with everywhere else, boating on the lake, but you can also do walking safaris, and horse riding is on offer as well. As with many of the other national parks, this park's entrance fee is used to fund local community projects, such as building clinics and schools. Excuse me. This is a picture of people on the lake. You can find hippos, kingfisher. Also around that area, you get a chance to go and visit the equator as well, which Bonnie and her group did as well. Once again, thank you, Bonnie, for all your pictures. They're lovely. Mahinga Lodge is a very nice lodge there as well, and it has a number of bandas. And Mahinga Lodge actually offers horse riding safaris through the park. Mount Elgon National Park, I have to say compliments to Alfie for the pictures. Alfie managed to trek Mount Elgon a couple of years ago and thoroughly enjoyed it. There are over 300 species of birds. Nature walks are available, coffee tours visiting farms, attract a lot of tourists all around the world. The coffee in Mount Elgon is actually Arabica coffee, and Mount Elgon is in the east, while in the west, which I was showing you all the other national parks besides Lake Mburu, the coffee that is grown there is Robusta. And coffee tourism and actually agricultural tourism, agritourism is becoming very, very popular. A lot of people are coming over to see coffee growers, also see vanilla farmers, honey as well. We even have a winery in the west of Uganda as well. So yeah, so agritourism is quite popular. Kadepo National Park is the most northern park. The local communities around the park include pastoral Karamojong people who are very similar to the Maasai of Kenya because it borders Kenya. Excuse me. Cheetahs and ostriches can be seen on occasion. Nowhere else in Uganda you can see them, and that's because they border along the Kenyan boundaries, and you can find cheetahs and ostriches in Kenya. This is Vincent, one of our driver guides. These are one of our vehicles that we have. Bonnie and her group experienced one of our vehicles, actually two of our vehicles, and Vincent was one of their drivers as well. All our vehicles have pop-up roofs. A lovely lodge there is a poker lodge, and sometimes the elephants actually come to the lodge at all times of the day. So if you're lucky to see a lion, if you can call it lucky, a poker lodge is where you actually see it. Source of the Nile, Ginger, is where the River Nile begins. It's the adventure capital. You can raft, you can kayak, horse ride, quad bike, boat trips with bird watching. There's a number of accommodations that you can stay there, from budget to mid-range to luxury. It's only about 3 hours or 2 hours away from Kampala, depending on traffic. Cultural walks are very, very popular around there, and the village people around there are very inviting, and they like interacting with tourists. Alfred mentioned a little bit about responsible tourism. We do quite a bit when it comes to impactful tourism, and Ride for a Woman has been mentioned previously by Alfie. Ride for a Woman was set up in 2009 by Evelyn and her husband Dennis. The organisation exists to support local women struggling at home with issues associated with HIV, domestic violence and poverty. More than 300 women from 11 villages now use or work at the Ride for a Woman Community Centre, where they can learn a number of skills, as mentioned before, like sewing, weaving baskets, dancing, singing, drumming. The organisation also offers microfinance, helping women to help themselves and support their families. To date, there's over 100 women actively engaged in Ride for a Women microfinancing program. And there's a number of businesses. They do secondhand clothes stores, restaurants, tailor-made dresses, money transfer businesses. The women engaged in the scheme are focused on covering the basics, supplies for home, and ensuring their children receive an education. But if they have the chance, they don't stop there. They are continuing to invest and grow their skills and ideas. They are simply an inspiration. I want to draw your attention to this picture here. A few years ago, the Rotary Club of Bahoma constructed a borehole on the Ride for a Woman premises so that the women could access water easily. The women were using anything they could find, small jugs, bowls, etc., to carry the water back to their homes. Thanks to Broad Escape's amazing generosity, Ride for a Woman received 250 5-litre jerry cans, which have been shared amongst the 300 women. Big thanks to Bonnie and her team for the life-changing donation. And this came through just before COVID hit. So thanks, Broad Escapes, for that, and Bonnie and the team. We also pride ourselves on focusing on social responsibility here as well. And one of the projects we have is Saving the River Mapanga. The Saving River Mapanga campaign involves cleanup activities to physically remove plastic waste from River Mapanga and to mobilise and sensitise the community about the dangers of responsible waste management. River Mapanga is a lifeline for an estimated 1.2 million people in Western Uganda. From its origins in the Ruwenzori Mountains, the river flows 250 kilometres through a number of districts before reaching Lake George. Human activities along the riverbanks are threatening the flow and quality of the water. Campaign activities were stepped up in November, with Toro Kingdom officials running community education programs through music, dance and drama to teach the locals how to conserve the river and the environment. We at Let's Go Travel are passionate about the cleanup of River Mapanga, as our MD, Joan Kamya Els, is also the Minister of Tourism for the Toro Kingdom. Joan's family home is in the Toro Kingdom, and she has been organising cleanup days and fundraising events to help with the cleaning of the river for the last few years. We also have Toro Babies Children's Home. It was founded in the west of Uganda in a town called Fort Portal. It was built in 1970. The Toro Babies Home has for many years been dedicated to take care of orphans and neglected children with the help from donors and well-wishers. The home takes care of abandoned children whose biological parents are not known. Others are orphans whose families are known by relatives, don't have the capacity to take care of their children, and some are children born to parents suffering from mental health issues. The Toro Babies Home Management Team works hand in hand with local government and local police officials to receive these vulnerable children. Over the years, many children have passed through this home and are now making their way in the world. Children of known parents and relatives are later resettled in their homes once they are less vulnerable. Toro Babies Home has a capacity of 60 children, but is currently caring for 48 children, 32 boys and 16 girls. On Valentine's weekend this year, Let's Go Travel with the Ripples Foundation, a charity initiative with the mission to further spread love and kindness to vulnerable children based in Kampala, visited Toro Babies Home with donations of food, clothes, toys and baby supplies from Let's Go Travel staff and Ripples team. So that's a couple of impactful tourism and social responsibility projects that we do. Just highlighting a few, we have a number of others that we do as well. And thank you, Webelinyo, as they say in Ugandan, and I hope to see you on safari soon. So.
Thank you, Alfie and Angelica. That was very informative and gave a really nice showing of your country, the diversity of the country, the wildlife and national parks, and particularly the sustainable tourism and community involvement of your company. So thank you very much. I just briefly go through a few things. I know in Canada right now and globally as well, we're experiencing a third wave in this pandemic. So travel isn't available. And well, at the moment, we still are under travel restrictions, hence our Dream Now, Travel Later theme. But if you are, when you are ready to travel for Uganda, we do hope to have a tour with Broad Escapes, a small group of between about 12 people, and it will be either the fall of 2022 or the spring of 2023. And you can pre-register on our website. It is available right now. We're not taking any deposits or anything, but if you pre-register, you'll get the information as soon as it's available. If you are traveling independently with your significant other or within your own little bubble, we can arrange, customize any itinerary for you. And we also have some preset departures as well. Again, when the borders open and it's responsible enough for us to travel. And just to touch on peace of mind, it's just really important that you know who you're booking with, and know that here at Ellison and at Broad Escapes, we have vetted our suppliers and have, very trusted, great relationships with our suppliers worldwide. So by choosing to book with us, you know that you have someone to call at any time. And also, you'll see on the screen there that Safe Travels designation, which we have been designated with that, and it just will provide you with peace of mind knowing that we are taking the protocols in place to ensure a safe travel for you. So our next virtual tour, we're going to be taking you to Ireland. It's going to be Thursday, April 15th at 2 p.m. We're presenting Roundwood House, a charming countryside estate in the heart of Ireland. Will be presented by Kathy Ellison and the estate owner of Roundwood House. This is not a Broad Escapes virtual tour, but we invite everyone to join us in this upcoming event. Whether you're traveling to Ireland with friends, family, Roundwood House is a hidden gem, and it's rated as one of the top 10 places to stay in Ireland. So don't miss out on that. You'll be getting an email if you're on our Just Ask Ellison email list, or if you want to sign up on Ellison Travel website. So we're just going to briefly open it up for some question and answer here. We'll get Alfie and back on the phone or back on the Zoom call here. If anyone has any questions, you can enter them in the chat box. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we'll certainly respond to you directly after the presentation.
Okay, so sorry. What is the best time to visit Uganda if I want to see the gorillas?
Alfie, do you want to answer that?
Okay. Yes, so the answer is you can visit all year round. Visiting the gorillas themselves is not the issue, because you're in a rainforest, so you need to be prepared for it to rain at any point in time. And all that does is it will just make the trek itself a little bit more difficult because the terrain is wet. In terms of dry and rainy seasons, the rainy seasons are November, and then right now April and May, and end of February, March and April. So.
Okay, Alfie, can you just speak a little bit louder? We're having some people are having just a little bit of trouble hearing you. I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, so just to recap, because the gorillas are in the rainforest, there will always be rain in the rainforest. They're habituated, which means that they have ranges that they move around in and around in terms of habitat in the forest, so you'll always be able to find them. It's just how long it takes. The rainy seasons are towards the end of the year, in October and November, and then in February, March, and a little bit of April. Apart from that, it's sunny all year round and a great time to visit.
Great, thank you. So it is a good destination to visit year round then. We have someone asking, how much time do they get to spend with the gorillas?
I'll pitch in quickly, and then you can add on, Alfie. You get to spend an hour with the gorillas, and you have to be a minimum of 5 meters away from them. Alfie, do you want to add?
Only to say that the time starts from when contact is made, not when you leave the Uganda Wildlife Authority headquarters.
And the amount of time it takes to actually get to the gorillas can vary, and it varies every day, right? And it depends on the family that you're visiting as well. So
exactly, you know, Bonnie.
Yes,
because you've done it. So
it can take as little as maybe 45 minutes or as long as several hours to
8.5 hours. Yeah. No, only joking, not that long. Only joking, few hours.
Just to add on to that, it's because the journey to see the gorillas from your departure point can vary. You always advise to take enough water, so it's 2 liters of water and a packed lunch. We also, and that is whether it takes 45 minutes or 4 hours to reach the gorillas.
Yeah.
You take that.
Okay,
the second thing is, it's recommended to hire a porter to help you with carrying your packed lunch in a day sack, because you might have your camera as well, and also just to assist you in some of the more challenging terrain.
Okay, we have another question. How much vehicle traveling is involved in one of these tours? So how much driving around is done?
It really depends where you really want to go. So we have 2 popular safaris. One is an 8-day safari. Now it's 9 days with COVID because you need to test before you fly. And we have another one that's 11 days, which is 12 now with COVID before you fly. It really varies. You can, if you do the 8-day one in Western Uganda, if you remember how I showed you that loop going anti-clockwise, it could take, some spots are about 3 hours, other spots are maybe about 5 to 6 hours. And it also depends on the weather as well, and the terrain. You know, it can be quite unpredictable in the rainy season. I know when Bonnie was there, when she arrived, it wasn't rainy season, but it rained when she came with the group. Do you remember? And it took a little bit longer than when she the first time that she came. So just be prepared that, you know, if it says on Google Map, it takes about, you know, 3 hours, it might take a little bit longer than that, depending on the rain, depending on, you know, what's happening on the road. And the nice thing about Uganda is that it's not boring. There's always something to see. You know, it's not like arid land. It's always green. There's a lot of villages around. There's always something to look at.
Okay. I have one clarification. So when they were asking, they understand about the 1 hour time limit, but would a trip itinerary have more than one day of seeing the gorillas?
We usually go on.
Our trip that we took last time with our group, we had the 1 day, and generally most safaris would include a 1 day trek. Am I right in that,
Yeah.
Ange? Yeah.
Yes, you can do. The thing is that it depends how fit you are, and you have to remember that it could take anywhere, like Bonnie said, from 45 minutes to about 3-4 hours to see the gorillas, and you're at a higher altitude as well, going up into those mountains. You're pretty much up to about 2,000 meters plus. Is that right, Alfie?
Yeah, about that.
So it can be quite arduous doing the trek. We usually do one trek, optional. Some people do two. We give that as an option. The other thing is maybe Alfie, you can talk a little bit about the gorilla habituation, which is also on offer. Do you want to do that, Alfie?
Yeah, so the gorilla habituation is different. There's one family in the Rushaga sector, which is the southeast sector.
Sorry, Alfie, we're having a hard time hearing you.
There's one family which is in the Rushaga sector, which is in the southeast sector, where which is currently undergoing a habituation, and you're allowed to spend 4 hours with that particular gorilla group, as opposed to 1 hour. So, you know, if you're looking for a more extensive experience, that is an option. Just in terms of would you do one or more gorilla trek? That's you can do two. It is possible. That just comes down to personal preference.
Okay, thank you. I've got one last question for you. Were more baby gorillas born in 2020 due to less human visitors?
Well, the gestation period of a gorilla wouldn't suggest that. But there has to be a link, I would anecdotally say, between why there was less, why there were more babies born in 2020. So, you know, the gestation period is about 9 months. So that would have meant that conception would have been in 2019. So I'm still trying to ask some of the vets the questions. I think all in all, we're just really pleased that numbers are increasing. And as I said in my presentation, this is all about now trying to understand, and it's accelerated this discussion about what does tourism and gorilla conservation and wildlife conservation as a whole look like now, because we've never had, to coin a phrase, a circuit breaker before. You know, you have in other parts of the world, Great Barrier Reef and some parts of Thailand, you know, where this type of stuff has been enforced, but not in East Africa. So I think the jury's still out, but you know, we're interested as well to find out, because it's good news.
Okay,
Awesome.
I think that's it for questions. So I'll just hand it back to you, Bonnie.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Alfie and Angelica for presenting today. It was very informative, and I think everyone will go home knowing a lot more about your beautiful country. So we're going to end the presentation today with a really nice, just a summary video of Uganda. And thanks again. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you at our next virtual tour. Okay, thanks again, everyone, for coming. We hope to see you again soon.